Hi guys, quarantine and we need to do some stuff to keep ourselves occupied. So I went and built myself a nice uh, potter's throwing wheel to make some pottery for me and with the kids. So this is a rundown of how this machine is built, the different components and the stuff that I did to modify the components that I had. So I'm gonna put everything up together now so you could see how it goes together. This is the shaft that spins. This is a bowl for the excess water, and I'm still not done with this bowl. I need to connect a hose to it so I will be able to drain the water out of it, but we'll get to that later. And of course the wheel is turned from different pieces of wood, flat wood for the top with circles, so I'll know where the center is, and some support wood that will go over the shaft. That's it, and let me show you how it works. I have a manual control and a foot control, but we'll go into that later when we get to the technical part. So this is the manual control. We'll talk about it later, and I can turn it on, which is the beep you just heard, and I can spin it up. This is the lowest speed. I believe this is about 120, 130 rounds per minute, and it can go up more and more. And in this configuration, this wheel can spin. Let's turn it off. This wheel can spin at around 1200 rounds per minute, which is around 5 times faster than any normal throwing wheel, but you know, go all or go bust. So let me show you a little bit more here to the bottom, and you can see also the foot control, which works the same way as the manual control, with pedals controlling the speed and starting and stopping. And I'll turn this machine around and I'll show you what's beneath it. When I first posted pictures of this on Facebook, my friend said, well, this bench is quite large, it wouldn't be that comfortable to sit on, and he thought that you would be sitting here and working on it, but actually it's the other way around. You sit on the other end, and this table is for a bowl of water to get your hands wet. It's for the materials and some other stuff. So just as a show, I'll show you how you're supposed to sit and work on this machine. And you will be sitting here and working here and controlling the machine with the foot pedals on, and you will work your thing. Imagine me working now. Imagine the scene from Ghosts with me and my wife. Well, try not to imagine that actually. So this is how you work. It's very comfortable. I think if you want some measurements, the wheel is about 11-inch wide, and that's almost everything there is to it. I can get my hands wet, get the clay worked on, excess water will go into the bowl. This pipe, which I will connect in once I'm done making this video, will connect to here a little bit higher than the bottom, so the bottom could fill up with water and some slit, some clay that will fly off. The clay will accumulate at the bottom, and a little bit above that the water will drain so it won't overflow the bowl. So let me flip this around and we'll see what's on the other side. So guys, this is the bottom view of my potter's throwing wheel, and let's go over a little bit of the components here, and we'll see what each one of those does and how it's arranged and connected. So let's go over Let's in general talk about what we see here. This is obviously the motor, and this is the pulley that you've seen from the other side sticking out. Now this is the motherboard of the treadmill. This is the control board, and I'll show you a closer look in a minute. We've got a transformer here and a component that I think is a frequency equalizer modulator, and obviously the on-off button and some controls that I rigged up. So, and this is the belt that drives the whole thing. Now, the general size of the table, the length of the table that I've made was determined by the length of the belt that I had. Now, this belt came off an old washing machine, and it's the belt that used to drive this pulley that was connected to the washing machine drum. So that's the belt. And let's go in for a closer look, and I'll tell you exactly what I did in each part. Let's see how I can set up the phone to view the different pieces. So this here is the part that the wheel on the other end is connected to, and you can see the shaft here spinning when I spin by hand the shaft. So this part, this pulley, was taken out of the machine itself from the treadmill. Now the shaft that I use is the original shaft, and originally this, if you can see, this is the shaft and this is the outer casing, and the shaft was inside, let me see, there we go, and the shaft was inside this, supported by two bearings here and on the other side, and this was the part that was spinning. So the hole or the bore in this pulley meant to fit this part here. You can see the ragged part here. So this was actually encased inside this plastic pulley. So the hole wasn't good enough for the shaft itself. So I had to make a wooden insert. Maybe later I will take it apart and show you the wooden insert, but I just made a circular wooden insert that goes into the space where with pressure where the metal tube used to be. And there's a bearing encased in this part here, in the wooden part at the bottom. There's a bearing there, there's a bearing encased in this part here, and this keeps like a sandwich the pulley between those two bearings. So that's this part, and there's another bearing on the other side of the table. There's a total of 3 bearings supporting the short shaft. So like we said, this is the motherboard, and this is where the motor connects. I can actually make a switch that will make the motor spin the other way. This is a DC motor. It's 1.25 horsepower, which is about 5 times as powerful as your normal machine, but you know, go all is one of my mottos. And this is where the control board connects to the motherboard. Let's move over and take a look at the control board. So this is the control board, and this is where the connection is made with the motherboard. And on the back here, and I'll show you a little bit later, a top view of what I have here, I've rigged a control system to bypass the buttons for power on, power off, speed up and speed down. And there's a reset button, which I have absolutely no use for. It's when you program this thing. It was quite a high-end treadmill, so it had programs and stuff like that, but I'm not using all those. I just need on, off and speed control. So I rigged these using telephone wire, landline telephone wires. Everything is soldered and encased in some hot glue. So these actually control the on-off, speed up and speed down. Or am I? Oh, I'm sorry. This is the start and stop, and this is the speed up and speed down. And I have 2 ways of controlling this, using a manual control and using a foot pedal. And I'll show you those in a second. So here in the back of the board, you can see the 4 buttons. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4, although again I'm using only this one and these two, which I've rigged. They had their pins, the soldering pins, protruding from the back, so I just tapped into the back of those, and the rest is absolutely useless to me, but I didn't want to cut anything out. Everything is important to make this work properly. Now let's talk about how I connected the controls that I've made to the board. So there are two ways that we can control this machine. I've made a hand control and I've made a foot pedal control. The hand control is actually in case one of my children would like to do some stuff and play around with it, and I don't trust them controlling the machine themselves, so I will just be able to control it manually when I'm sitting beside them and not overcrowding them. So let's talk about what we see here. This is the manual control, as you can see, with a long wire, and I used an internet network cable for this because it had a lot of cables inside and they were color coded, so they were easy to use, and those are connected through these connections back to the control panel. So we've got a start and a stop, or an on and off, and we've got a speed up and a speed down. So let's see how that works. Let's power this stuff on, and clicking it and you hear the beep. So that is actually meaning that everything is primed and ready, and I just go speed up, and as you can see, it spins and turns. And of course I can long press it if I want to go quickly. And at any moment I can stop it. The reason why you see the pulley there wobbling, it's just the end of it, because that pulley used to be connected to this really heavy cast flywheel, because on a treadmill you wouldn't want to stop immediately. You want the motor to wind down a little bit slowly so you wouldn't fly off the treadmill when it stops. And obviously I didn't need that. I needed the wheel to stop when I wanted to stop, so I cut it off, and I didn't do a really good job. I had to cut it manually, so I'll have most of it left. So it looks wobbly, but it's not wobbly, it's just the end of it that it's not cut completely straight. So this is the hand control and this is the foot control, and they are connected to the same wires, only here I used the telephone wires, so I could actually disconnect the foot pedal. As you can see, I can disconnect the foot pedal. Let me get this to the side. So I can disconnect the foot pedal and store it somewhere else, so it won't bother anything. And the foot pedal is quite simple, 3 pedals. As you can see, there's a spring here and there's connection here and here, and you can just click it with your foot, and we'll see how that works. So each one of those is connected with a different plug, so I could control them separately. This is the power on off, this is the speed down, and this is the speed up. And let's see how it works. On and off, as you can see. Now it's on, speed up. Let me get this out of the way so you'll be able to see better. So speed up, speed down, stop, on, long press, and I can play around with it. And if I don't want to use that with the children, then I can simply disconnect these 3 telephone plugs and put it away it's also for easier storage. So just the top view of the shaft and how it spins. Let me turn it on. And you can see the bearing inside, and this is actually just a support bearing, because there are other two bearings at the bottom that keeps the shaft, and you can see how nice it spins, and it's completely true. And this nice cut that I've made using the disc. And let me just mount the wheel for a second, and you can see how it spins well with the wheel itself. And stop. So what I'm saying, guys, is don't let your spirit down because of the lockdown. Go and create stuff, go and invent stuff, think out of the box, find new hobbies, find ways to fill your time, and make something useful. I know this is going to be useful. I'm going to do some things with clay for myself, with the kids. They're going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. And we're gonna have a lot of fun with this machine. The only problem with it is I have no idea where I'm gonna store it when I'm not using it, but I'll probably hang it up from the ceiling in my shop. So I want to thank you for joining me in this week's video, a little bit out of the box, something different than turning, but we're not all confined to the same hobbies. We want to expand our mind and expand our experiences. So I hope to see you back in my shop really soon, guys.